beautiful, just all the festivities and events. And it was really nice too, because, I'm at this new chapter in my life where, the kids are getting married, so I'm going to be heading to Chicago in October for another niece's wedding. So it was just really nice just to have all the McNamara family together. And then when I came back last week, I tested positive for COVID. But you know what? I was on 6 planes within a week. I mean, chances are you're going to get COVID, right? Yeah. So, I was a little surprised. It's really rampant right now, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you came back and I was like, I don't even know what the regulations are anymore. Is it regulated? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I looked it up on the CDC, and I'm probably wrong here. I mean, if you're having symptoms, I think it's, the CDC should just change it and take off all the whatever they have written on there, because it's too much to read. So like a person with ADD is not taking the time to read all that. So if anyone from the CDC is listening, you should have a different website for people with ADD.
They're going to ask you to create it for them.
I'll create it for you. Hey, listen, I was up at 4:30 this morning because I was bored. Okay, so, but I think they could just change it, and it simply should say, use common sense. If you're coughing and hacking and sneezing, throwing up,
sometimes that's difficult.
Don't go near people. Is Tim with us? Good morning, Tim.
Tim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. Yeah.
Hi.
Have you been one of the lucky ones? Have you not? I know it seems to be out there pretty much with everybody right now.
I'm sorry. I had my headphones off.
Oh, that's okay. We were just talking about COVID. Yeah, we were just talking about how I went to Belize because one of the McNamara girls got married and came back and I had COVID for the week last week. So, I was.
No, I haven't had it.
That's good.
Again.
Stay healthy.
Yeah. Oh, I am. Trust me.
Yeah. I'll be honest. There was one day I had like a headache, but I probably would have had that headache regardless of having COVID.
After traveling, yes.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is, again, we say use your common sense. Like, don't, I was tired and stuff, but you know what? I was traveling and it was a lot, and you're 100 miles from the damn equator when you're there. It was hot.
I could never survive.
It was uncomfortable hot. I never thought in my life I would ever say that, but I did. But I basically had a headache. But our Mary Horton is expecting her first baby, and I just didn't want to really be near her.
Yeah.
And I, you have a busy life, so I didn't want to be near you. So I worked.
I have a busy life. I'm not expecting a child.
You are not expecting a child,
but I have a busy life, so I appreciate that. And everybody who's been listening has heard that I've had this like little tickle for like a few weeks. So I'm like, I never thought it was COVID, and I did go to the doctor's last Saturday after the show because I was doing the show with Tracy, and I just I think I drank 3 glasses of water and had like 4 cough drops. I had a whole entire bag and I'm like, I just can't get rid of this tickle. So I did go to the doctors, and they were they wanted to have me get a chest x-ray to make sure I didn't have pneumonia. And I'm like, well, what? I was pneumonia in the middle of the summer.
No, but I think there's something out there. I was talking to somebody else at Town Hall yesterday in Pembroke, and her daughter, she was just hanging up with her daughter. Her daughter had pneumonia and bronchitis. I mean, so be careful out there, people. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, this show, I promise, is about real estate, but we did so many COVID shows, like obviously during COVID, in the past few years, just about open house etiquette and showings and everything like that. And I just don't want to go back there. So, but still wash your hands.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please wash your hands.
Again, we are live on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, so be sure to follow us, Boston Connect Real Estate. If you watched us, I just looked to see if I was wearing my shirt on backwards, but I'm not, so this is good. You can also call Tim at the studio, 781-837-4900. You can also text that number now, so if you want to join in on our discussion, you can let us know how you're feeling today. Are you excited for the sun to come out? How are you feeling? Again, call or text 781-837-4900. But Sharon, you are back, and you are, going full force. You've been, so busy all week preparing for today.
Yes, today is the day.
Today, I mean 8/17. So if everybody knows, we sort of talked about this. We did a couple shows on this when it sort of first came out in the news, and things that were changing in the industry. And we sort of haven't talked about it since, and I think we haven't really talked about it since because it has changed so much, and our perspective has changed as well. Our mindset has changed, but also what goes into effect today has changed since we talked about it the first time. So I know you're sort of getting set up on a little something over there, but I want to sort of jump right into it. And talk about what today is sort of significant for those in our industry.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to start just give sort of a recap of like the NAR settlement and a little bit of that?
Just sort of a recap of it. There was some lawsuits over what I
think it was
state? Missouri. Yes.
Somewhere not here.
Somewhere where they weren't doing something right, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we weren't doing anything right. We were actually doing the right things and filling out our forms the right way, but what's done for one must be done for all. So across the board, NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, they were sued by some sellers.
By attorneys. Let's be honest.
By attorneys.
Because the seller that started and initiated it was a seller. And, this is one thing, too, and I'm sorry that I just cut you off there. Okay. But, one of the things that is interesting is, when I was talking about... Oops. I don't know what that was.
That was some music.
Yeah. So when I was talking about some of these things earlier... when I was talking about the settlement earlier, I was really like, I'm so tired of this. Like, why are they changing it? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then, we've been working really, really hard around in the office trying to fully understand it and trying to, fully understand it, one, and comprehend it and explain it to not only our agents, but also explain it to our buyer clients, right? And seller clients. But it has been changing quickly, right? So everything has been changing quickly. MAR, how many webinars? Oh yeah, we were the first real estate office in the state of Massachusetts to have the Massachusetts Association of Realtor attorneys doing a webinar in our office.
Yeah.
What else?
So essentially the lawsuit was somebody felt as though they were not given the correct information when it came to compensation and how that was being paid out to those involved in the transaction. And unfortunately, their paperwork was just not up to par, and they were able to, sue the National Association of Realtors based off of some paperwork that they had that didn't clearly specify where this compensation was coming from. So, a seller believed that they were only compensating their agent that they hired, but then they felt as though that they had compensated a buyer's agent as well. These are all facts. There are certain things that we're not allowed to talk about publicly or openly, for legal reasons. Not that we were involved at all, but just in our industry, we're sort of not allowed to talk about certain things. So if we say apples, sometimes we have to say apples. If we say oranges, sometimes we have to say oranges. But in this case, this is facts, and everybody knows about this lawsuit. So compensation, there was a discrepancy over in Missouri and how that was all being played out, and who was really paying the compensation for both sides. For us, it's very cut and dry and explained, but as of today, everything needs to change in how we present everything, and this is across the board, so it's not just for Massachusetts, it's across the board, and just how we explain things to our clients. And now we have a lot more paperwork, different paperwork that really lines out exactly what is sort of going on during the transaction.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I feel like I'm just joining you.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
I am here, and I'm happy to be here. But yes, so what we're going to discuss today is the day that the mandatory items go into effect and what the changes are with NAR, and they're basic and simple. And here we have to give a little history too. I just want to get that in front of me. Thank you. So just to let people know, the National Association of Realtors, that is an association that we belong to as real estate agents. And as real estate agents, we are now allowed to say realtor, really. So like when you see the word like, hey, I have to call my realtor, like we're not even supposed to use it like that. We're supposed to say, we really are real estate agents. And that's sort of like Sharon McNamara, comma, realtor. Like it's a designation that, not even a designation, it's just what we are when we're part of this association. And, you know, part of me was having a problem with some of, you know, the stipulations that they were putting on us because I felt like I didn't have a vote. I mean, I have to pay to be part of this association every year, and so do all of our agents. And, you know, they went through this lawsuit. It isn't finalized until November 26th, by the way, so it will probably adjust and change again. And I just felt like when the state of Massachusetts tells me what to do, that's when I'll do it. And I'll be honest, that's sort of how I still feel. Like I still sort of feel that way. But I am part of this association, and I guess it's like a marriage, right? You know, for better or worse, and you have to, you know, abide by what they made and hope that the people and the leaders at the top have our best interest in mind. Okay? So with that said, the changes are actually quite simple. And as you indicated earlier, this lawsuit was about decoupling commissions. And the seller, who was also an attorney, he got his final CD, which is a closing disclosure when he was selling his house. And on there, it said, and I'm just using round numbers that mean nothing. It's just for conversation. It said, you know, ABC Realty, which was the company he hired, $10,000. And then 123 Real Estate Company, $10,000. And he said, well, why am I paying the buyer's agent? Right? In all reality, his contract was really stipulated that he owed $20,000 to ABC Realty. So I sort of blame the CD for that, and we'll have Jasmine on one day to explain some of that to us, and if there are any loan officers listening and you want to call in, feel free. If that didn't happen, he probably wouldn't have thought anything. So the way that the commission had always worked, and you know what? There are different viewpoints and arguments out there. I've heard every single one, every which way that you can think about it. I've heard it. Yeah. I feel the buyer pays for the house. Yeah. So is it their money? Not anymore. They used it to buy a house. Yeah. Excuse me. So when they bought that house, they gave the money to the seller. The seller, in return, paid his seller's agent, right? So he was responsible to pay $20,000. Once that agent from ABC Realty got that money, they were responsible to pay 123 Real Estate half of that, or whatever they decided on, right? So one of the bigger problems is, and one of the things that I find is interesting is, I was reading in here today, like, what are the key factors that influenced NAR's decision to choose the legal path that it did? Well, that wasn't the one I wanted, but I can read that if anyone's interested. But it's NAR's mandatory MLS policy changes. This is about MLS. So what ended up what happens is I sit with my seller and I say, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I am going to charge, this is what my fee is. Yeah, we can have a conversation about it. Everything in the world is negotiable. If I say, this is what I charge, I'm just going to use flat fee numbers because we usually use the percentage, and that's part of antitrust, so I don't even want to go down that road. But if I said, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I charge $20,000 to sell your house. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, guess what? They have the right, like you were buying a car. Hey, can you do any better than that? Yeah. We've had clients ask. We've had clients who haven't asked. We've had clients that said, makes sense to me. In our contract in Massachusetts, we actually had a line item that said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, now that you've agreed to pay us $20,000, I'm just going to let you know, out of my money, just for true transparency, I'm letting you know that I am going to compensate a buyer's agent. That buyer's agent can be from any company. It can be from Zebra Real Estate to White Car Real Estate. Any real estate company, right, can come. For me to be in MLS, and we're part of MLS PIN, in order for me to be an MLS PIN, we had a contract that we had to sign with MLS PIN that was a participation agreement that basically indicated that I, as a real estate agent, were willing to cooperate with buyer agents and offer them compensation through them, right, through the vehicle of MLS PIN, in order for me to put my listing in their MLS. Mm-hmm. I really had no choice, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And I think it should be the real estate agents that are suing people at this point. But hey, that's another day. And I'm really not into suing people.
Maybe we'll do a show on that in a year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll see how this plays out.
Well, there already is in Missouri. There's teams of agents and companies that are suing their MLS. And this is the reason why, or their association. MLS PIN is sort of a one-off. Most of the MLSs in our area, Cape Cod and the islands, the Berkshires, and in most states, their MLSs are owned, operated, and controlled by the association. Mm-hmm. So this makes sense that you're part of the association. You want to practice in MLS. You can't unless you offer compensation. And now they're coming up with the changes. And if you're not part of NAR, you cannot be part of their MLSs. Mm-hmm. If I were them, I would have a bigger problem with that.
Yeah.
Like, well, maybe I don't want an R next to my name. Mm-hmm. I can't use your MLS. Well, now
now you can't have my listings.
Yeah, well, now, and that's the thing, though. It's like, now I can't put my listings in there. Well, wait a second. My clients didn't do anything wrong. Why can't I put them in the hub of all things real estate? Because when I put it in MLS, that's how it gets fed to Zillow, Intrulia, Realtor.com, Homes.com, BostonConnect.com. That's how it gets there. So our hands are sort of tied. It's like, use us, be part of our club, or don't. It's almost like this crayon sitting on the sidewalk chalk sitting on the sidewalk, but you can't use it unless you're part of the club.
Oh,
that was a good one.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's where we are. Our MLS, however, is not owned by or operated or associated to any association, whether it be local, state, or national. Okay. So MLS PIN, our MLS said, hey, we're not abiding by the rules. We don't have to play in your game because we're not part of you. We don't have an R. We don't care. So They basically flipped them the bird, right? They did. I can say that. So they flipped them the bird and said, no, I'm not doing it. We're not participating in part of that. We don't want to have anything to do with it. That was your deal, not ours. Okay. Well, when they did that, I was like, hip, hip, hooray. I'm sort of glad. I always fight for the underdog anyways. I always have the runt of the litter and everything else, right? So I was happy about that because I thought, okay, well, this is someone who sort of sees things my way, right? The state isn't telling me I have to do this. It's an association that I don't have to be part of in order to practice real estate in the state of Massachusetts. So why do I have to go through all this? Well, then our MLS said, hey, we're not going to abide by these rules. So all these rules that have come out, you don't have to abide by them. We're telling you, you can do whatever you want. And we'll get into those real quick too, right? What we can and cannot do. Well, as we've been watching, and honestly, Melissa, I would say that this has been longer than 9 months that we have been discussing, talking, researching, watching videos, listening to webinars, listening to my friends on Clubhouse, which nobody has joined me today, and going through all of that for all these months. And then I watched a webinar 3 weeks ago before I took off to go to the family wedding. And it has been said that, yes, we know that there are MLSs out there that will allow people to still put in the compensation, will still allow people to, work without buyer's agent agreements. We know that there are. However, if you do that, you will not be covered under the lawsuit from anything past, current, or future. So our hands are tied yet again.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, that's how we've been feeling. Like, not only is it sort of has it been not clear and up in the air, and what are the changes going to be, and they've been changing, case by case basis. It's just, it's difficult to sort of get your head around it and roll everything out when they're not being as clear as they should be. And with the domino, which you just said, of, you have to be a part of this to be a part of that, and to do this, to do that. I never really thought about that before. I always just thought, okay, this is how it is. You have to have this and to do this, and it sort of made sense. But now I'm taking a step back and being like, oh, wait a minute. Like, so just to sell a house, that you have to be a part of 6 different things in order to give the best service you possibly can. Like, it's just so bizarre to me.
Yeah, it is. So I never thought that we'd be talking about this again, but hey, it happened on the day of our radio show. But just as a reminder, you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. I am Sharon McNamara, the broker owner of Boston Connect Real Estate. I am here live in studio this morning. Haven't been here for a couple shows with Melissa Wallace. She is the director of operations and the liaison to all of our agents here at Boston Connect Real Estate. If you are listening this morning on WATD, feel free to give us a call if you want to talk about this subject. Of course, any other subject related to real estate. We love to talk real estate. That's why we named our show Talk Real Estate. 781-837-4900. We have Tim in studio this morning, so he can get you over to us. He's in their new studio in Marshfield, which I haven't seen yet. So I want to go over there and see that. We should do a show.
Did I send you some pictures, Sharon?
No, I don't think you did. You might have sent me one.
I think maybe a couple of weeks ago you had sent one.
Maybe one, yeah. I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Will you give us a tour?
Give us a tour. Give us a video. I don't want pictures. So Tim is in studio, see? He will get you over to us.
Maybe I'll do that later.
All right, perfect. That sounds awesome. And then I don't think that they're doing anything with the South Shore Chamber this year. They usually do like a cookout in their parking lot.
Yeah, I thought you asked that to Larry the other day.
Yeah. I don't think that they're doing it.
They did that.
That's usually in September, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So we're early.
Yes.
Let's let them know. Let them know we stopped by. We were expecting it.
Yeah. Where is everybody? Yes. So again, 781-837-4900. Or of course, you can go on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, any of those platforms and find us there as well. So I also have, I just want to check something here. So I have my friend Rue from Orlando, and she is in Orlando, Florida. She's joining me through Clubhouse. Rue, can you hear me? Can you on mic for a sec?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, it's
perfect.
working again, Rue. Yes, we can hear you too. So awesome. Thank you, Rue. So, Rue, to all my listeners, if you are thinking about snowbirding, this is probably the time of year that you're going to be thinking about it, because we are into August, a couple weeks away from Labor Day here. And I know that Rue can help you with all the needs that you have in beautiful Orlando, Florida. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you, Rue?
Oh my goodness. Well,
you know your name. You know the areas you serve. Let me help you.
That's out of the way. They probably know I haven't had coffee yet, too.
Mm-hmm.
But I've lived in Orlando for, at least 30 years now, probably a little longer. I don't know that I want to know how many years, but I've been here a long time. I used to come from... I used to live in Illinois, so I am well versed in the frigid winters that occur in the Midwest and Northeast, and I prefer it here, and would welcome anyone to experience the joys of 70 degrees in December and January, and walking around in shorts for those of you that are coming from up there, because we're wearing coats down here.
So you can always tell.
Oh, yeah, you can tell who's not from here, because anybody that's lived here longer than 5-7 years, when it gets to 70, except for my husband, I don't know why, he's weird. You're wearing a coat. You can't handle it anymore. But, we're having an interesting real estate year, and in some cases there's some pretty good finds. I've got a lovely condo here that a couple is buying to do their second home.
Oh, nice.
In a place called Celebration, which is kind of an antebellum type of town, very reminiscent of, in my opinion, Columbus. I came from Columbus, Georgia, too, so it's very reminiscent of Georgia with the front porches and columns and architecture. It's a beautiful town, and a lot of people look for something as controlled as that. Disney built the town, so it's
that's why it's called Celebration. Blah. You know how I feel about Disney.
I know I forgot how much you love Disney.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to be down there probably again. I decided not to go to Summit, so I will not be flying out to Dallas tomorrow, next week. So I won't see you next week. I just have too much going on here. And I'll probably be there for Elite, and maybe I'll come a couple days earlier and follow you around and do some work with you.
That would be awesome.
And then, today, actually, Melissa and I were going to do a show on condos today. And
How fun is that?
yes, well, maybe you can join us next week so we can talk about condos there and here and
Sure.
get people ready for that. So we can coordinate with you to do our show next Saturday, and we'll discuss condos. But for right now, I want to get back to this show because I know you've been
Go for
listening a lot for it. And give everybody your phone number in case anybody is considering moving down to the Orlando area.
Absolutely. If you are curious about, anything Florida, because I can connect you throughout the state, but Central Florida area, my number is 407-493-5615. Happy to receive any texts or calls that you need answers to about our lovely state. Thank you,
That sounds
Sharon.
awesome. Thank you so much, Rue. Have a great morning.
You too.
All right, bye-bye. So, again, that was Rue. She's my friend down in, whatchamacallit. I used to say my friend from Clubhouse, but I just say my friend now. She's down in Orlando. Yeah, she's really good. She's really smart. She's really good at what she does. So, to all our listeners, if you didn't get her number, you'll have to listen to our replays on Talk Real Estate Roundtable, or you can just give me a buzz and we can figure that. I'll get you her phone number. All right. So back to what we're talking about. So today is the deadline for the what is it that we're talking about? The settlement and what the requirements are of us, okay? So how is this going to look for home buyers and home sellers? And, for the last several months, what we've been concentrating on is how is this different for real estate agents? And again, as the broker owner of Boston Connect Real Estate, obviously, primarily, I want to make sure that our agents are trained and know what they're doing and we're abiding by. They're not state laws. They are just policies of NAR, which we are part of. We are a realtor office. So now that NAR has come out and basically said, even though your MLS is going to allow you to do some of these things, we're just letting you know if you do, you're not covered under any of these under the liability of it all. Okay. So of course we're going to abide by it. So not that we did anything wrong. I don't even think anybody in our state did anything wrong, but hey, we're part of a national association. So that's why we have to do this. So the changes are basically simple. And what it means for buyers and sellers, okay? So one is the compensation has to be moved off of MLS, okay? So before, I would say, again, remember, I'm just using whatever numbers. If I charged the seller $20,000, he would owe me $20,000. And then for me to put it in MLS, I said, yes, I will compensate another broker to bring me a buyer. I'm going to give them $10,000 of that 20, okay, that my seller has given me. We can no longer put a number in MLS. Does it mean that the company can't compensate? No, it doesn't mean that. They just can't do it through MLS, okay? The other thing is a written agreement for MLS participants acting for buyers. So basically, and you know what, there's probably a lot of you out there, if you're listening and you purchased a home recently or in the past, that perhaps your agent had you sign a buyer agency agreement. Okay? I am going to be fully transparent and I'll put it out there, even as the broker owner of my company. I've been doing this for 2 years. I didn't use buyer agency agreements. Did I teach our agents to do it? yeah, certainly, said it was a good idea. I think I just never did because this is going to be hard to believe, Melissa, but there was no buyer agency when I started.
Yeah.
It was a newer thing when, it changed, I think in like 2005. It went from agency, which was stupid, to buyer agency. Makes sense.
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah. So to buyer agency. And I just didn't. And I think if I was in a different place in my career, then I probably would have been much more on board with doing that. I'm very fortunate in my situation that a lot of my work is referral work, people from the radio show that call me, our listeners, and, things like that. So, but I'm going to have to now. So all it means is I have to have a written agreement with anyone who is buying a home before you view even one home. So there's a change for me. There's a change for you if you're buying a house. Mm-hmm. The other one is, that's really it, right? Those two things that we can't do, right? So we can't put that compensation anywhere. So we can't put it in MLS. And then the only place that the compensation, if a company is deciding to compensate still, like, okay, Mr. Seller, I'm still going to charge you $20,000. And I am still going to pay a buyer's agent if my company chose to do that. So brokerages can. I don't know what every brokerage is doing, so you need to get in touch with whoever your agent is to find that out, which is another wild thing that you just do. You can if you want. You don't have to if you don't want to. Whatever. It doesn't matter. So if we can still do that if the buyer gives us permission to do it, and it's part of, our listing agreement. We just can't put it in MLS. You can put it on your own website, your own company website, okay? So our company has taken on, what I did is I put together a small committee of our agents in our office, and I asked them to sit with me, dissect these new forms. By the way, said read only up to last week.
Yeah.
Right? Still said read only because they were changing them up to the very minute.
Well, they were probably getting some feedback from people who actually practice real estate.
Yes, for sure. I could give them some more feedback. And that is true, so the attorneys were changing and they had committees that were, forms committees and things like that. And I actually checked off from Mars looking, because I'm on the grievance committee for Massachusetts Association of Realtors. I also checked off I had to renew, and I also checked off that I'd like to be on the forms committee. Because I think they need someone who's, and I'm sure they have some, but maybe a different perspective. Yeah. So anyways, so that can still happen. So, and if we have some callers, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this, okay? 781-837-4900. Are we just babbling and you just don't care? Or is it something that you're interested in? 781-837-4900. And I'm sure we have some Dunkin' Donuts gift cards and stuff for our callers. Okay. So that you can still do all those things. At the end of the day, this comes down to decoupling of commissions. That is what the DOJ, the Department of Justice, ultimately wants at the end of the day, okay? So I'm sure that they're going to come up with something or a ruling that's going to change that will no longer be, you will no longer be able to do that. That is my guess, pure guess, okay? And the reason why is because they would particularly like it to be decoupling commission would mean the seller pays the seller's agent, the buyer pays the buyer's agent. Sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Before, I still felt like that's what we were doing. The seller was paying me. He was just paying me more, right? This is where the media is sort of taking things and running with it. It's not going to cost sellers as much to sell their house. Okay, maybe, perhaps it's going to cost them more. But anyways, we can go down that road if we have time. So, feel free to cut me off anytime. Do you have something to say?
You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. Okay. So decoupling of commission. Now all it means is, hey, Mr. Seller and Mrs. Seller, I am not going to charge you that $20,000 that we discussed. I'm going to charge you $10,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are only paying me at the end of the day. Okay. So just the whole craziness in our industry has been wild for the last 8 months. Well, and there's been some legitimate concerns, like how if the buyer has to pay directly now and it isn't going through that same vehicle, how how are buyers who don't have a lot of savings and a lot of opportunity to come up with that money to pay their buyer's agent, how is that going to happen? So all of those things are being worked out. So, and that's where people were going wild. And then at the end of the day, I think that everything is going to be fine because, it's interesting. I sent a text to two of the people on my committee that were helping me this week. So Kristen Howlett and Susan Bollinger, both full-time agents here at Boston Connect Real Estate. And I was like, I was thinking about the show this morning, and one of the things I was thinking about is how this is going to work. And then, like, at the end of the day, I'm sort of happy that I don't have to negotiate for more money. So I have to pay the buyer's agent. Why am I paying the buyer's agent?
Yeah.
The only reason why I was paying a buyer's agent is because I couldn't put my listing in MLS unless I did.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So now I'm happy. All I have to do is, I don't have to negotiate as hard.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to the buyer's agent now to sort of show their value and, come up with what their value is and how is it that they're going to get that. And it's going to be a little muddy water for a little while and just sort of everybody navigating and figuring it out because, like I said, sort of in the beginning of the show, is that everyone's sort of gone on their own pace and how all of these things are going to come into effect today. And if your agent hasn't been educated on what we're going to be doing moving forward after today, I feel bad for those clients.
I absolutely feel bad for those clients. Yes.
I feel bad for those clients. I think there's going to be, based off of some conversations that we had. So we had a company meeting yesterday, just finalizing all of the office policies that we are going to have moving forward with these new forms and how we're sort of going to go about and navigate our new business. And there were some things that, we were bouncing off of each other and saying, I have this under agreement. What do I do with this? And blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be muddy for a little bit. And everyone's sort of navigating and, trying to figure it all out. But after today, we should all sort of be on the same page and using the same forms and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see some of the things coming through, how often we'll see old forms coming through the next few weeks. But, I hope that everybody has taken the time to
learn.
Here.
Yeah,
learn.
It's just Mark.
Oh, Marcus.
Yeah. So one of the things too that's really important is that, like some of the forms, and I created an addendum, and it, the basics of this too is to let the sellers and buyers know that compensation and commissions are fully negotiable and not set by law or any external entity. Like that just has to be on everything. And I don't think that that's a big ask, to be quite honest. I think that, all right, well, they always were. I guess it just wasn't written out, but you can't tell me that they weren't if I sit with one person and say, this is what we charge. And that person says, well, would you be willing to do it for this amount? And you do.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Of course, like it's up to you to negotiate. I mean, a negotiation, by the way, goes both ways. And I talked about this in the meeting yesterday. If I go to somebody and say, my charge is $10,000 and you say, well, you do it for $5,000, I still have the option to say no.
No.
It doesn't mean that you can just, keep on taking compensation away because, it just doesn't work that way. So anyways, it's just, I wanted to get that point out there. So one of the things, and again, I am going to reiterate, like if you are under contract with somebody right now, please don't take my advice. I am not your real estate agent or your advisor, but you certainly should be getting in touch with your agent. We do have addendums. So if you currently have a buyer agent contract or a listing contract with an agent, one of the things that we are required to do is there's additional disclosures to an existing exclusive right to sell listing agreement, and there's one for the exclusive buyer agency agreement. And the only thing it says in there, other than your name and our name as a broker, is broker's fees for service rendered is not fixed, controlled, or recommended by law or by any person or entity not a party to this agreement and are fully negotiable. That's all. That's the only difference that you have to do right now if you're already in contract. Some people might want you to do a whole new listing agreement. Again, This is where it comes to company policy. It has nothing to do with what I am doing at my office, okay? So, do you think people care what we're doing in our office?
I mean, I think we can keep it to ourselves.
You think? Okay.
Well, you can say it if you want.
Yeah, I'll
but
say it. I'm just going to say it. We're not going to cooperate with buyer brokers, okay? And I know that sounds, oh my goodness, you're not going to do that. Really, truly, the only difference is where before, again, going back to my example, if I charged my seller $20,000 to sell their house, and I took that payment and then I paid ABC Realty $10,000, right? That's me cooperating with another buyer broker through the vehicle of MLS. Well, I can no longer put anything in MLS, so I am no longer obligated to do anything through MLS or with another brokerage. My listing agreement is solely with my seller at this point, okay? So if I go and say, hey, I'm charging you $10,000 versus $20,000, that's what the listing side is. However, I won't be paying. However, if you are a buyer's agent, and we have several buyer's agents, obviously, in the office, and I work as a buyer's agent, Mary works as a buyer's agent, we will have buyer agent agreements with our buyers, and we will 100% have in place the term of how long the length of the term of that agreement will be. Is it going to be one day? Is it going to be one weekend? Is it going to be a week, a month, a year? What is it going to be? You decide, okay? And how much you charge for being their buyer agent, okay? Because it's no longer coming from the brokerage, right? So for us, we are doing what we believe the DOJ wants us to do. They want us to decouple commissions. That is what we're doing. We will not be paying anybody anything, okay? So that will just come through the seller if he chooses to pay you. This is where at first, I was like, oh, this is going to be terrible for buyer's agents. But I'm really excited for the agents at Boston Connect Real Estate because the cream of the crop is going to be right at the top, right? And that is our agents. And they will be able to still get their client offers accepted and still get paid, right? So how that will look for our sellers out there is, and for everybody else who's listening that's probably going to faint right now that I said that, is don't worry about it. Like, I still see the value of a buyer's agent. I am one,
Yeah.
And I will be explaining to my sellers the value that a buyer's agent brings to the table when they have a ready, willing, and able buyer. When they have been working with somebody where they have a buyer agency agreement, they are sitting with them. I like to use the word scrub. They're scrubbing them. You know what I mean? They're making sure this buyer's agent is a professional. They have a document, a legal contract with this person. Which means probably they sat down with them. They explained the process to them. They're certainly not out there driving around showing people houses if they don't have a pre-approval letter.
Yeah.
All of those things that really matter, right? So that's the value of a buyer's agent, right? Introducing them to attorneys and to the best of the best so that you, Mr. Seller, will have a transaction that is seamless. I truly believe that. But, Mr. Seller, at the end of the day, it will be your choice and your choice only if you would like to compensate them. I'm not getting involved in it, okay? I don't want to know if he even wants to or not, okay? We can do a worst case scenario with, a spread, like a net sheet. Hey, this is the worst case scenario, you know what I mean? Like, let's put in a number just so you could, like I might say, okay, previously, if I charged you 20, these are just numbers I'm throwing out that I've used as an example today, by the way, if you're just tuning in. We're using the example, we always use percentages, but if it was $20,000, I'm charging you 10 now. You could probably assume that the buyer's agent is going to request you to pay them $10,000.
The buyer is going to
yeah.
request through their
Yes.
buyer's agent
Thank you.
through their offer.
Yes.
So the difference is that now with our form for an offer to purchase, there is a section that is a contingency of a compensation to a buyer broker. So if you're a buyer and you have a contract with your buyer's agent for a certain amount of apples that you would owe them once you purchase a home, then if you can't come up with that out of pocket and you are going to request the seller to pay that for you, you would make that a contingency, a part of your offer. Just like a home inspection, just like a pest inspection, just like your mortgage contingency. Now it's a contingency in your offer.
And then it's interesting because when we were going over these forms and, now it's written in there like the purchase price, and then it says compensation to buyer broker. So if, a contract to purchase real estate, yeah, so compensation to buyer agent, buyer broker. And Melissa makes a very good point. This is not the buyer's agent interfering with her or his client getting an offer. This is the buyer requesting to the seller that the seller compensates their buyer's agent on their behalf. Okay, but I feel like that should be under the contingency section. I don't think it should be there, but that's me.
Well, I think just another thing on that is based off of the other contingencies of their offer. So
Yes.
I am going to ask you for this because I am, maybe waiving my home inspection. Maybe I'm putting 20% down, 30% down, cash, those types of things. Like I said, it's just another part of an offer. And moving forward, I mean, you can put nothing there as well. If you feel as though that you can afford to pay it on the side, pay it not through your offer, then you put nothing there. You delete it, you waive it, you whatever. But this is just something you are asking the seller to do, and the seller can say no.
Yeah. The seller can say yes. The seller can counter offer. Like there are so many things. So now this fee is truly just going to come through the vehicle of our contract to purchase real estate. That is how the buyer broker potentially is going to be asking to be compensated, but they're not asking, their buyer is asking on behalf of their buyer broker. Okay. So now, yesterday, we put a listing on the market. We never do it on a Friday, but we knew that this house would have a lot of activity, so we didn't want to wait on it. So we put something live yesterday afternoon. We got several showings already, and already my phone started ringing. Is your client willing to compensate buyer agents? And I was like, wow, that was fast. So my response was, I have discussed the value of a buyer agent with my client, and I am sure that he will entertain any offer and contingencies that are put before him. Probably he'll consider he'll entertain anything.
Yeah.
That's up to you as a buyer's agent to help your buyer put together the best offer. And this will definitely have multiple offers on it probably. What we will do is we will put them in a spreadsheet and we will line them up and we will let our client decide, because the only person who can decide that will be the seller, if that's the vehicle that you choose to get paid as a buyer broker.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yeah, we're just delivering the facts.
Delivering the facts.
Well, we only have 2 minutes left, so I want you to give your final thoughts on this or whatever you want to say.
My final thoughts are, hey, I woke up this morning, I went outside, I looked up and the sky is not falling. Okay, today's the day. We're all set. We're good. Don't worry about it. My suggestion is always work with the highest professionals that you can. Of course, we have them here at Boston Connect Real Estate. And of course, my team, me and myself and my team member, Mary Horton. We do help clients buy and sell homes. So if you would like to get in touch with me, 781-294-4848. If you would like to just sit down with me and I can go over all these forms with you so you just have a better understanding of them, I'm happy to do that too. So just give me a buzz, 781-294-4848. And real quick, what do we have for open houses?
So open houses this weekend. Team Flynn has a new listing in Bridgewater. It's 26 Pratt Ave. That is tomorrow from 10 to 12. That is on the market for $939. Sharon and Mary, of course, have Cushing Trails in Hanson every Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 12, and Cochise Estates in West Bridgewater from 10 to 2 every single Saturday and Sunday. That house that Sharon and Mary have, 445 Plymouth Street in Pembroke, not doing an open house, but open to private showings. So if you want to get in touch.
What's the price on that one?
$499.
$499. Yep. So give me a buzz. Yeah, it's right around the corner from my house. So happy to show that to anybody. 781-294-4848 is my cell phone. Send me a text or 781-826-8000, bostonconnect.com. Make sure you listen to all of our past shows on our web, on our podcast, Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Have a wonderful day. Bye, Tim. Have a great day.
Bye, you too. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Would you be mine?